That is a lot of meat, isn't it? Yeah, that is a lot of meat, and I just wanted to actually show you this because this gave me a kind of a weird, not idea, so to speak, but more of a thought, I suppose you can say. Anyway, basically, my thought was, what actually happens with trade skill here? What actually happens with trading? Because you're never going to be able to trade these things, right? I mean, you can see here, I basically have no trade rumors about beer for some reason. This would have been really good for me to actually give an example of because there's so much of it, and I'd like to do a little bit of analysis on this just in case you wanted to create a trading character. Obviously, bear in mind, this is still in development, so obviously all these thoughts and things about various systems and mechanics are probably going to be outdated in the next version or in many versions to come because they're going to continue working on things. But I just wanted to bring to your attention that it's going to be a little bit difficult to profit off of food situations or shortages in some cases, because in the base game, if you see a town that is under siege, more than likely, if the siege goes on for a decent amount of time and is not perpetrated by an extremely fickle AI that will just leave after 2 seconds, then that town is most likely going to be in need of some kind of food. And if you can buy grain for a very, very cheap price, I'm talking, 4 or 5 gold per one, more than likely you're going to be able to make an absolutely fantastic amount of cash as a result of that shortage. Obviously, this is very much a war profit kind of thing, but, traders and merchants, they take advantage of situations like this. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting little thing going on there at Lannisport specifically because they had so much meat. I mean, how much did they even have? Like 30,000 or was it 300,000? I have no idea. Anyway, what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm going to call for an army. All right, we're going to call for an extremely. Oh, I can't even create an army actually. Oh well, never mind. Apparently there are no vassals available. Yes, there are no vassals available. So the only thing I can do is, well, I can recruit some more people into my clan if I want to do that. So I suppose what I'll do is I'll go to Highguard and I'll see if there are any companions in the tavern there, and then we'll see whether we can provide some people with some troops or something like that. I mean, I didn't really want to do that because that's a little bit of busy work. I'm not a big fan of that whole thing because actually that's another thing I wanted to talk about because there was a comment that was asking me why do I not use as many companions as I did in Warband? Are they just not as important in Bannerlord? And actually, I would definitely agree with that. Personally, I don't believe the companions are. I don't know. I don't think they're that fun to use. And I don't know whether that's just me or whether that's the general consensus, but I personally feel like whenever I am going to recruit a new companion, I always think to myself, do I care about this companion at all? I mean, it's always good to have another person, on your side rather than an enemy. Obviously, it's obviously much better to have an ally than it is to have an enemy. But it is one of those cases where I just think, well, what is the point in this guy, or girl, or whatever? It's like, I don't know. It doesn't really make that much difference. And that I guess that's what I'm trying to get at here. It basically doesn't matter whether you have this companion or that companion. I'm actually going to use this sword instead now because the sword that I have right here, just going off topic a little bit, it only has more swing damage. And I think that's absolutely fine. But if you take a look at the swing speed of my new sword, it has 121 swing speed in comparison to my old sword's 95. And I personally feel like the swing damage, it's only reduced by, 19 or so? I think that that's really, really good. But you got to bear in mind that this new sword has a very low reach in comparison to my old sword. So it may be one of those cases where I'm going to have to swap it back, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, we're going to give this guy a whole bunch of stuff. Again, this is the reason why in the past people have commented and said, why don't you equip your units, you know? Why don't you equip your companions in decent gear? Because they're obviously going to, you know, perform a lot better in that case. And whenever I get that question, well, obviously I can't possibly answer every single thing because there are a lot, but what I'm trying to say is it's basically impossible. It's impossible to, in my opinion at least, get these companions to be in a situation where they're actually going to be decent at killing things. And I'm not saying that as a way to basically be like, well, you know, I'm just lazy, I don't want to do that. Well, yeah, that's one part of it, but the fact is, when you see these guys, and I'm talking about any of these other companions, I actually have no other companions to scroll through, but anyway, the point is, when you have other companions and you think to yourself, okay, yeah, this guy's going to do fantastically. Let's say you're playing Warband here. You know, let's say you've got Jeremus or something, you know, it actually makes a difference for them to level up. You care about them, you care about their skills, you care about how effective they are going to be in a fight. But in Bannerlord, you don't really care about the companions at all. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe that's just me, because maybe I just don't, maybe I just don't value them as much. Maybe there's a reason for that. I'm not entirely sure. But all I do know is that I personally, I hate to say it, but I really don't care about this guy at all. He's just a random face that I found in a tavern. He's not anything special. No offense. Okay, I'm being a little bit harsh here, I gotta say, but bear in mind, he is just code. He is just a random amalgamation of code and a sprite model, 3D textures and so on and so forth. Whatever. The point is, it doesn't really speak to me, and it doesn't really say, oh, this guy is, amazing, or, this guy or girl is really good at this particular activity. Because obviously, if I'm referring to Warband here, I'm going to refer to Jeremus or something like that. And Jeremus is, well, I've actually done this wrong, haven't I? Yeah, I've done this wrong. I'm an absolute idiot. Okay. Anyway, Jeremus is one of those characters that you just think to yourself, okay, this is great. This guy's absolutely fantastic, because what you're going to be able to do with him is, well, you're going to be able to make him into one of the best medics possible, unless you take Ymira, obviously. And that's another thing that you got to bear in mind. It's a case of, well, you can choose what you want to do in Warband, whereas in this, it's kind of like, okay, so I'm searching for some random. You know what I mean? I'm searching for some random. I have no idea what this person is going to be like. If I go into the tavern and I speak to them and I think, oh yes, they're good at one-handed and riding skill. And I think, oh, okay, they're good at one-handed and riding skill. That's good, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really excite me like it would excite me to find Jeremus, for example, or find Rolf, or one of the old companions from Warband, because I would think to myself, oh yeah, we finally found this guy, because now we can make him into the best possible whatever that he possibly can be, you know what I mean? And it then gives me a little bit of extra excitement and a little bit of a case of, oh yes, I can definitely go and do this plan that I had in my mind for our, for our team, and then we can continue on from there. Whereas in this, obviously that doesn't happen, because you're just coming across randomly generated companions. And now here's the thing. Randomly generated companions are not actually a bad thing. I personally feel like that's actually pretty cool, and I like the whole randomization element. But then you've got to realize that these random companions are not really going to be cared about in any way, because if you have death enabled, which I think I do have death enabled, right? Because I haven't seen any vassals dying or anything like that. But yeah, I have death enabled. Birth and death is enabled. And now let's just say that birth and death is enabled in Warband, right? Because obviously that's not really a thing. There's not really, you know, death in that game unless you have like a mod that gives you executions or something. But generally, everyone's pretty much immortal in that. And obviously, I don't really care about that. I mean, yeah, it's cool to have a birth and death system. I think it's absolutely fantastic, actually. But what I'm trying to say is, it is kind of difficult, right? It's kind of difficult to go about your business and then be like, okay, I leveled this guy to 25, right? Let's say that I leveled, I don't know, Jeremus. I'll use him as an example once again. But yeah, let's say I leveled Jeremus to level 25 or to level 30, and that's a huge amount of time investment, right? So let's say I leveled him to that level, and then all of a sudden he gets killed because the birth and death system is enabled, right? I mean, this is the reason why random companions, I assume, are a thing, because the game is meant to be played with a death system in place. But let's just say that that happens, right? Let's say that the worst happens and you spend an inordinate amount of time leveling up this one companion, and then he dies, and then you basically have no medic, you have no really strong heavy cavalry lieutenant or whatever that you want to make them into, like you usually used to make them into in Warband. You know, let's say that, you know, you do the exact same thing in Bannerlord that you do in Warband. And then all of a sudden you're without that guy, and you've literally just spent, I don't know, the good, you know, better part of, I don't know, what, 5-6 hours just leveling that guy up, and then all of a sudden he's nowhere to be found. And that is probably one of the most frustrating things you could even think of, right? So that's the reason why that actually isn't a thing, I guess. That's the reason why there are not predetermined companions like there are in Warband, even though I personally like that system a whole bunch, because it makes you feel closer to your companions. And now, that's the funny thing, you know? That's a really funny, shall we say, aspect of games in general, because there's another game by the name of XCOM. Yes, I think you know of it. But yes, XCOM is one of those games where they give you randomized, and this is really funny actually. This is kind of a good example, I suppose. Maybe it's a good example, maybe it's not. But XCOM gives you randomized soldiers for the most part, and you go through these missions with these soldiers, and somehow, due to the magic of XCOM, and I don't even know how they do this, to be honest, but they basically make it so that you feel close to these guys. You feel close to the soldiers that you're commanding in these life or death missions. And I don't know what it is, but you don't feel the same way in Bannerlord whenever you're having, whenever you have companions. At least I don't. As I say, I don't mind or really care if one of these companions dies. I mean, yes, it actually is a bit, it's a bit annoying, because these guys are, becoming commanders for additional troops, and it makes it easier to besiege things like I'm doing right now. And, stuff like that. It actually makes it a little bit simpler for you to complete certain tasks in the game. But it's not terrible, and that's the point. You don't really have any emotional investment in these companions in Bannerlord. And that's the reason why I'm like, well, how does XCOM do it? Right? How does XCOM do it? Because when I was playing XCOM, if I were to lose someone that had been with us since the start and that had literally participated in, I don't even know how many missions, let's say, I don't know, what, 15, 20 missions, and hasn't died and has gotten many kills in every single mission, and then you think, wow, this guy's amazing, this is super, super cool for this fellow to be a veteran of the XCOM project, and then, he dies to some random thing, I mean, it can happen, right? It can happen. And then you're without that guy and you think, wow, that's a really big blow to our morale. We're going to be terrible now because we don't have this extremely elite soldier and everything. And it's kind of a similar thing to losing Jeremus, I suppose, right? It's kind of a similar thing to losing Jeremus in the example that I gave earlier. But again, if you were to look at the Bannerlord companion system, you then think, well, I mean, you know these guys, right? I mean, you know the guy that I just recruited. Eragai is his name. Eragai the Hawk. That fellow. If he dies in this particular battle, which I highly doubt he will, but let's say he dies in this battle. Do you care? I mean, do you care specifically? I'm talking to you now, because obviously I've given you my opinion on what actually happens with these guys, and I personally don't really mind, but yeah, I mean, let's just say that he dies. Do you care about that? Because as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I'm obviously playing the game, but in general, you haven't actually fostered an emotional connection with this guy either, because he's literally been in the series for like, what, 5 minutes, but I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It, even if, I mean, who are the other guys that we have? I don't even know their names. I mean, that's the whole point, you know? I don't even know their names. I haven't really been given an opportunity to really bond, I guess, is the word to use. And there's no bonding opportunities available, really. At least that's what I have so far seen. And I don't know whether that's my fault. Maybe it's my fault. I don't know. But I feel like XCOM kind of forces you into those kinds of situations. I suppose it's because Bannerlord deals on a much larger scale. I think that's probably what the deal is. Because if you think about XCOM, you're going in with just those units. So it's basically like a companion-only run or something like that. But you've also got to remember, if you do companion-only runs in Bannerlord, and I gotta say they are a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun. I have done something similar in the past, but it wasn't companion only. It was just many companions as well as regular units, because it didn't actually intend to be a companion only run, but it turned out to be that by the end. Anyway, the point is that kind of thing. I'm actually going to be getting the experience here, I think. But yeah, that kind of thing, being a much smaller, on a much smaller scale, I feel really helps to foster that bond between you and your characters. And Bannerlord doesn't have those kinds of situations, as I say, unless you do a companion-only run and you have a certain amount of people. And I mean, obviously, again, because they're randomized, you're not really going to remember, oh, that's the guy that did X thing in, you know, in X time. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, Pelosaur, if you've seen the Pelosaur series and you've seen the other series that was, well, featuring Pelosaur for the most part, you know, that level 1 companion that I told you about before, that is the kind of thing I'm talking about. We had a bond, albeit a relatively shallow bond, I guess, dependent on who you are. You know, maybe you don't really care about Mr. Pelosaur. I personally think he's a lot of fun. I don't know, I kind of like that. I kind of like that whole thing. But yeah, the point is we had a bit of a bond with that guy, right? Whereas all these other guys, well, no, not really, right? Not really. Anyway, we're going to be making peace with a bunch of people, and we are receiving tributes as well. I'm actually kind of surprised they're making peace with us so quickly, but I guess it's because we just took... Oh, never mind. I actually thought these were fiefs of theirs, but they are actually not. Okay, so that's fantastic. That means that I'm going to be able to go in here as well. Hopefully I'm going to be able to restore myself before that happens. Hello, Ed Tully. Let's attack him. Yes, let us attack him. But yeah, I'd actually like to hear your thoughts. Your thoughts on the whole companion thing, because I've spoken at length about it, and you know, maybe you have some thoughts to share as well, because maybe I haven't thought of something. I mean, I definitely haven't thought of everything, that's for sure. But you know, maybe you can give me an idea as to what you think. Make peace. Our kingdom will pay 6. Why? Why will our kingdom pay 6,000? That makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm literally just going to do this. I'm gonna have to build this really, really fast, and then we're gonna have to go in. I don't really want to go in the nighttime, so I'm gonna have to wait a little bit. There we go. Okay, phew. That was a bit too close. That was a bit too close for my liking, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, if you're a fan of XCOM, you know the kind of thing I'm talking about when, you know, I don't know, let's say you have some friends, right? Let's say you have some friends where you're talking with them and you're in a situation where they bring up XCOM or you bring it up or whatever, and you've been playing it or one of them has been playing it, and then they go, oh yeah, but you know, there was this guy that was with me from the very start. His name was Bradley Cooper, you know. That was too good. That was too good to pass up right there, that reference. Anyway, point is, let's say that, you know, they tell you all about him and how, you know, he graduated from being a lowly rookie into one of the greatest snipers in the world, or whatever the case, you know. And in the history of XCOM, you know, he was just such an amazing beast. And then eventually he learned psychic powers, and then he was able to completely destroy everything. But then, all of a sudden, 2,000 mutons came out of the clown car, the proverbial clown car of XCOM, and took him down, or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what kind of situation it could be. But let's just say that happened, and that's the thing. It's kind of that sort of story generator, you know. It's a bit of a story generator. It's kind of like RimWorld as well. If you think about RimWorld, and you feel, you know, you think about, I don't know, maybe things like Kenshi as well. I know some people have been talking about Kenshi a little bit, and I have played that. I have played that, by the way. There is a playlist. I played as a cannibal. Yes, I know. I played as a cannibal with some mods in Kenshi, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was absolutely a lot of fun, but that's the kind of thing. It's kind of like a story generator. It gives you the sandbox area, and it gives you characters that are persistent in the game world, and they can die, and then, you know, you kind of see what you can do in those situations. But Bannerlord, while I do appreciate the randomized element of the companions, the fact that you also have regular troops really does diminish the whole thing, really. I mean, you don't really see what your companions are doing. You know, for example, right now, I have no idea where any of them are. I mean, they could basically be sitting on the sidelines, bugging out randomly. They could basically be wherever, and I wouldn't know it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't know where these guys are. I would literally just be like, oh, okay, yeah, that guy's all the way over there. I never knew. You know? And I guess that's maybe part of the issue. Yeah, I would say that's probably the issue, because I'm thinking right now, I mean, look at this. I'm thinking, okay, I'm seeing a lot of Western elite bowmen, Lannister man-at-arms, Westerlands knights, and so on and so forth, getting some kills. And apart from that, I'm not seeing anything, because the companions are not really doing much. Wow, I'm actually super fast. What's going on here? I seem to be moving much quicker than normal. Can I get 275? Can I get 275 and two-handed? I would love to be able to. Yes, there we go. We finally did. Does that mean I get extra speed? Or have I already gotten the final one? I think I've already gotten the final perk for two-handed, haven't I? Anyway, athletics, not too bad. It's leveling up reasonably quickly. And now what I want to do, before we make the final vote, I'm hopeful that I might have the opportunity to do so. I don't know whether I'm going to make it there in time, but there is another castle relatively close by, and I'd love to be able to take that too. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make it, but we're going to try. So let's see what happens. 30,000 experience. I will welcome that. Thank you very much. And we're just going to leave these things behind. I'm going to level up all of these guys. And why is my... This is really, really funny, actually. I'm earning reputation and relation with my party... Well, shall we say with my clan members. And I'm not entirely sure why that is. Because, yes, I am, you know, fighting with them in the army, and I suppose that's the reason, right? I suppose that's the reason, because, you know, we're fighting with them and we're earning each other's trust, and I personally think that's a really cool system. I think that's nice, but what does it actually do? What does the relation do with these guys? That's the thing I'm kind of a little bit confused about, because, you know, you think, well, it's good to get relation with them. Well, yeah, it is definitely good to get relation, but what does it do? Does it do anything? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, of course, if they were vassals, then that would obviously be a bit of a different situation. Okay, we're going to be making peace with them very fast, so I'm just going to get out a battering ram real quick, and then we're going to go straight on in. I think my units might not even be powerful enough to take this, but I'm very much hoping that they will be. Let's cross our fingers and hope that that will definitely be the case. All right, let's do this. All right, I have full HP. We should have a decent time of things. Oh, we're outnumbered massively, but yeah, generally that's usually what happens. The defenders usually outnumber the attackers, at least at first. And please don't shoot me. Ah, you. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna run away. I'm just gonna phase through all the objects. Just run away. I'm not gonna use that to get into the castle again. Even though I think that's hilarious. Anyway. Hopefully, the battering ram will get there. I'm just going to stand here behind the barricade. Really wish I had a bandage now, to be honest. That would make all the difference in the world. Alright, there we go. There's the ladder. Okay, let's do this. Okay, I'm not entirely sure, by the way, about this new sword, because I did say that I was going to change out my sword. And I've got a bit of a mixed opinion about it at the moment, because on the one hand, it actually is amazing, because it's very, very quick. I'm gonna die, because I am being shot. Yes, couldn't do much about that, because if I jumped, I was definitely gonna die, because I was way too low in HP. This might be a defeat. This actually might be a defeat for us. That would be pretty bad. Yeah, that would be pretty bad, but I am willing to pay the price if we can take this, because that means that the Riverlands, who are just about to make peace with us, will no longer have any territory in this area at all. And that is obviously a very big goal of mine. I've wanted to take this triumvirate of castles for a very long period of time. So hopefully, if we are able to do this, that will then prevent the Riverlands from expanding from this area for that much longer. Anyway, yes, it does appear that we are now going to be achieving victory. And there you go. The enemy has retreated to the keep, but very few of them. Hopefully we have enough to be able to still take it. I think we do. Yes, we do. Fantastic. All right, there you go. 93 down. I'm not going to take anything else because I am way, way down on that. And yeah, I mean, bows are really, really good, but I guess I will take that one. And we'll see if we can. Oh yeah, that actually reminds me. I apparently gave one of my guys a longbow and a horse, so he will not be able to use that on the horse. But I suppose it doesn't really matter that much if he has a melee weapon, which he does. So yeah, thanks for letting me know about that, by the way, because generally, yeah, I don't tend to take note of longbow versus regular bow or anything like that. Anyway, strong legs. Oh, we finally got it. Okay, great. Yeah, this is a fantastic perk, probably my favorite perk in the entire game. I know it might seem really, really boring to you that this is my favorite perk. I think it probably is my favorite perk, apart from everything has a price, because that just opens up so many different options. But yeah, strong legs decreases fall damage taken by 50%. I don't care about the kick damage. The kick damage is, in my opinion, one of the worst things ever, because kick damage is basically negligible. You're not playing Bulletstorm. And, to be fair, I think that if strong legs actually made your kick as good as the kick in Bulletstorm, then I would be really, really pleased with that, to be honest. Anyway, a famous commander gives you increased renown by 50%. What is even going on with this? 50%. This is an absolutely insane perk, and definitely something you should always take, at least in my opinion. And let's have a look. Damage to walls increased by 25%, and your troops deal 10% more damage to shields. That could be very, very useful. Yep. I'm going to be taking Warbreaker. Yes, Warbreaker. Sounds good to me. Alright, so we were able, against all odds, I mean, maybe, was it against all odds? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, we did pretty well to be able to take all of those things. Let's go to the nearby town of Raventree Hall. We will just allow all of these things to go to vote, and oh, you're actually attacking me. This is actually kind of a bit worrying. Yeah, this might be a little bit worrying. Okay, so Mr. Tully here is wanting to fight. You know, it's like you know when you play Pokemon, right? Have you played Pokemon? Well, I'm sure you maybe you have, maybe you haven't. If you haven't played a Pokemon game, then I'd highly recommend it. They are a lot of fun. Anyway, the point is, it's kind of like when you play a Pokemon game and you're literally going to the Pokemon Center to heal up your team, and then all of a sudden this trainer out of nowhere that has been hidden, or generally you're trying to avoid their view, because obviously that's what happens in the older games, at least, where they have to make eye contact. Basically, you have to be in a straight line with them, parallel to them or whatever. And yeah, so that's basically what engages you to the battle. Now, imagine that's exactly what just happened right now. I was on my way to the center, to the town, and I'm thinking to myself, oh yes, I'm gonna heal. I'm gonna feel great. We're gonna have a nice little relaxing time and everything. And then all of a sudden, the trainer, or in this case, Mr. Tully, comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "Let's battle." And then he sends out his Caterpie or his Rattata or something, and it just turns out that it's level 100 with Hyper Fang, and that's going to be super not good. But yes, that's the kind of thing that it reminded me of, which I thought was very amusing. Anyway, let's see what we can do here. I'm going to go for a nice little loose formation. Let's tell my infantry to charge in, tell my cavalry to charge in. I would love to be able to use some thrown weapons here. Okay, yeah, I definitely used the thrown weapon against one of my own forces. That sounds great. Yep, that's what I tend to do. Just call me Friendly Fire McGraw. Yes, Friendly Fire McGraw. That is the kind of character that I am, apparently. Okay, yes, let's just hit a bunch. Where is Impale again, by the way? Impale is 250, right? Yeah, I believe it is. Oh, yeah, these guys surviving. Oh, got shot. Where did we get shot? I have no idea. Why is he standing there? This is the guy apparently with the longbow. But why is he standing there? You see this? Is it because he has so many archers? Oh, I think it's because he has so many archers. That's the reason why he's not doing anything. Because he's basically just like, oh, well, my archers are going to do all the work. I don't need to do anything. Are you going to actually kill someone, sir? Oh, there we go. He's actually going in there. Okay, so this is actually a really good example of a companion being almost somewhat useless. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it seems like we are going to achieve victory just about, as you can see right there. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I always think to myself, why did I bother? Why did I bother getting this companion? Because he's so... so, well, bad, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, in Warband, when you take people, to begin with, they're going to be really awful because their stats are just so low. Unless you're playing a mod, of course, and you recruit, I don't know, someone like Lord, what's his name again? Sir Alastair or Sir Roland, or one of those, knightly units from Prophecy of Pendor. Let's say you recruit one of those guys. They're obviously fantastic and they have great stats. But, well, obviously in the base game, if you recruit people, they're going to be pretty bad until you level them up. But in this, that's not really how it goes. Because, I mean, yeah, sure, if you take a look at their stats, you see that they have... How much do they have again? They have like 120 in one-handed. But if you, let's just say, who did we recruit first? These two, right? Gerald and Ger or Ger or whatever his name is. Anyway, yeah. So let's have a look at Gerald here. So you see here, look at his stats. Okay, So he has obviously a one-handed and a shield, and that's it. He's a very simple man. And he has 76 in one-handed, and I don't think he has actually leveled up that much, if at all, at this point. I think he's leveled up a bit of his medicine skill. Medicine seems to be doing quite nicely for him. Let's take a look at Gur here as well. And you can see here he has 92 in one-handed. He also has some in bows as well, but obviously, as I said before, he probably can't use his bow on horseback because I'm an imbecile. But yes, that's also something. Look at that, 92 in one-handed. What is going on there? And then obviously Aragai the Hawk, he is a one-handed weapon user and also a bow user, hilariously enough, and he has leveled up his one-handed a little bit. But this is what I mean. I don't care whether these guys level up or not, because they are basically just a way for me to pump units into their armies, and that basically then just gives me a bit more... I guess freedom, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more, shall we say, flexibility in the amount of enemies that I'm able to attack. And that's kind of the deal, I guess. Yeah, that is kind of the deal. Anyway, we have leveled up. Do I want to level up my leadership once again? I suppose I will. Let's go for another point in social 2. There we are. Okay, that's looking pretty nice. I'm thinking our character looks pretty nice right now. I mean, in terms of his stats, but I think the whole leveling thing is also a bit of an issue for the companions, because I have actually changed it in the game files to make it so that companions also level up a little bit faster. Just because, that's generally what I tend to do most of the time, because I don't want it to be a huge grind, that sort of thing. I want it to progress onward, all the time, to make sure that we always have progression happening and, exciting things going on and all that stuff. But these guys have not leveled up at all, and they have, I think they level up 3 times faster than regular speed, and that says everything you need to know about the leveling system of the companions. They really just do not level up fast enough. Obviously, someone is going to say, oh, but then you're going to say something or whatever, and I don't care. If you have something to say about the leveling speed, please just don't. That is just not... I've already explained exactly the reason why I do that, and generally, you don't have to do that. That is not a thing that is necessary. It is just for this series that I do that, because it just makes it a lot simpler for you and a lot simpler for me. Anyway, it seems like we're going to be making peace with the Riverlands. I think we have already made peace with them, actually. And we are now going to be giving this to Gregor, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, where it goes. But we are still gaining charm skill as well. All right, but yeah, anyway, let's have a look at the map and see exactly what's going on. Because you can see here, once more, the North is not really going to be doing much. And it feels to me like I think the Westerlands will probably be able to pretty much take everything. So it may very well be the case that I will be ending the series quite soon. Maybe in the next 1 or 2 episodes, I'm not entirely sure, because if that indeed continues to happen, where we just go, oh, okay, I'm gonna, besiege these 2 fiefs right here, Old Oak and Horn Hill, and I'll take those, and then in the next war, I'll do the same thing, and again and again, and obviously Tywin is going to be doing his best to be able to capture as many fiefs as well. So it basically comes down to, are we able to completely take things without actually having any issues maintaining our territory? And it feels to me like that is indeed the case. But I'll give it another 1 or 2 episodes anyway. And with that, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.